from the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg. This is 30 Minutes with Government with Cedric Peterson.
I'm Cedric Peterson, and welcome to this edition of 30 Minutes with Government. June 1st marks the beginning of the Atlantic hurricane season, which runs until November 30th. Prime Minister the Honorable Marcel Gomes addressed the country on the importance of being prepared. Here now is the Prime Minister's national address for the hurricane season 2015.
My fellow Martiners, June 1st marked the beginning of the 2015 Atlantic hurricane season. The season begins June 1st and ends November 30th. Forecasters have said it is going to be a quiet season, but this year, 2015, the season took off to an early start when Tropical Storm Anna became the first named storm of the 2015 Atlantic hurricane season. I call on the nation to be vigilant and to be prepared. This is a call to action. Remember, it only takes one hurricane strike to make it a bad season for us. Last October 2015, St. was struck by Hurricane Gonzalo, despite predictions of a below-normal 2014 hurricane season. It was an eye-opening experience after not being affected by a hurricane system in several years. Therefore, I reiterate by calling on the nation to be vigilant and be prepared. Start to increase your pace of preparedness and be prepared to take action when called upon to do so to secure life and property. Everybody has an individual responsibility to be prepared. If we all maintain a level of preparedness, it will reduce material loss and the loss of life. It will also allow us as a nation to jump back as quickly as possible should a storm system impact our nation. We must always remain mindful that for 6 months out of the year, we live in hurricane season. Hurricanes can cause serious damage, resulting in a setback to our national economy. As a nation, the majority of us have experienced hurricanes and know what to do. However, there are those who have just moved here and are unaware and inexperienced. As a good neighbor, help them by informing them on what has to be done in preparation for a storm strike. My fellow St. Martiners, do not be lulled into a sense of false security. At the beginning of every hurricane season, prepare yourself and your family. It only takes one hurricane to make it a bad season for us. Be prepared. May God bless and keep us all safe during the 2015 Atlantic hurricane season. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Decom spoke to the head of the Met Department of St. Martin, Mr. Joseph Isaac, to get some insight into the lessons learned from hurricane season 2014, particularly with the passing of Hurricane Gonzalo, and what the island can expect as it relates to storm activity during the hurricane season 2015.
Let me say thanks very much for allowing us to pass on some information to the public. We always recognize the media as a conduit that would get the meteorological information to the public. If we have the information and we cannot get it to the public, then it's really of no use. So we always encourage the media to get the information from the meteorological department. It doesn't have to be around the hurricane season, but at any time so that we can get the information out to the public. We're really working on different aspects to really always make sure that we can bring information to the public. So we always welcome these opportunities. We must say that 2014 was a very eventful year in terms of weather phenomena during the hurricane season. We remember the case of Gonzalo, and it would maybe be better if we take it step by step and look at one or two of the negatives in terms of the challenges that Gonzalo posed to the Met Office and by extension the citizenry of St. Martin. We always know that a lot of times you may get 2 days notice and you may be able to put a watch or warning in for a country. We all know that Gonzalo was a different situation altogether. And that is why when we do our public relations and so on, we always say that once you're in the hurricane season and even out of the hurricane season, because of where you live and your environment and so on, you have to listen to information. The Met Office had the information. The information on Gonzalo came out this Sunday afternoon. And information really couldn't come out on a storm before a storm is formed or before the National Hurricane Center, which is the entity that deals with those things, until we have that information. However, we were aware that there was an area of disturbed weather, and we carried it for days in our forecast. However, the storm formed on Sunday afternoon, and that posed a challenge. The challenge in that you'd find that most media houses operate on FM, and on weekends they would go to auto, so you have no warm body in the studio at the time. So to get messages and information out at that time is always a challenge. And yes, it posed a challenge for us, and the system developed very quickly. So as a result of that, the information to the public didn't really go out as we would like. However, we also had another challenge in terms of the response, how the public really responded to the information they got. But like I said, that the information was there and the information was late. The lesson to be learned is that we would have a watch, let us say 48 hours out into 36 hours, and we would have a warning from 24 hours. And like we always say, you may not have the luxury of having a watch or a warning the number of hours prior to the impact of a storm. And that is exactly what happened in the case of Gonzalo. One of the other things that happened in the case of Gonzalo, we were preparing, and Gonzalo started to affect the island as a very strong storm. During the process, while it was affecting the island, it developed into a Category 1 hurricane. And that information was given by the National Hurricane Center. We had our meeting last month in Costa Rica, where we discussed those things, and we look at different avenues to get better information out. One of the significant things also would be the amount of rainfall. So you could get rainfall over a 24-hour period. But what happens within a 3-hour period? So for example, there was a 3-hour period in Gonzalo that week, I think it was between 5 and 8 o'clock at night, where we got about 5.7 inches of rainfall, and that caused severe flooding. So these are the type of things that persons need to be able to comprehend, because it's one thing to get information. What you do with the information is what is critical, and how do you interpret the information? What is the difference really between a strong storm and a weak hurricane? And a strong storm could have a greater impact than a weak hurricane, depending on what is happening. And I will give you an example. If you have a strong storm which goes across the island of St. Martin very slow, and you have a lot of rainfall, you could accumulate, let us say, 10 inches of rainfall or 20 inches. You could have a Category 1 hurricane, which is stronger winds, but with less rain and maybe moving quicker, and the island could accumulate a lot less rainfall. So you could have events where a storm could have a greater impact than a hurricane. These things people might say might be very technical and so on, but it all comes back to your environment, knowing your environment, knowing what you can do, etc. If you look at it, if you're looking at significant rainfall and you're in an area that is prone to flooding, then you have issues. Now, if you're on a hilltop where you're not prone to flooding or so, wind might be more of an issue for you than flooding in terms of rainfall. So these are the sort of things that we need to know. The following month, we had a trough system that interacted with an upper level low. And again, we had a significant amount of rainfall, and there was a lot of inconvenience because of flooding. A number of homes got flooded out and so on. But that wasn't a storm. It was just a trough system. Now, people might hear things like a trough and so on and may not really pay attention to it, because as far as they're concerned, it is not a storm. But this can have significant impact on you, like it showed what happened last year in November. So these are the type of things we want people to understand. As much as possible, we will give information and we will say what is happening. But it is difficult for us to say X place will flood and that street will flood and the waters will be up to a certain level. There are so many different parameters that you're dealing with that it really comes down to persons knowing the environment. So if, for example, I would get 5 inches of rainfall in a certain area and that area may flood this month, I could get 5 inches of rainfall in that same area 3 months from now and it may not flood. What may be the state of the ponds in St. Martin at the time? How much water they can take? What is the status of the land? Yes, the nature of the soil is not that it absorbs so much water, but then whatever it absorbs is also significant. So when you're dealing with, for example, in the hurricane season, when the soils are already saturated, they would be able to take less water, and as a result, flooding would happen quicker. So these are the sort of things that the people really need to know and understand. And I cannot emphasize more the importance of knowing your environment. We have heard about hurricane forecasts and everything else. I'm not one of the persons who get too excited about what the forecast for the season is going to be like, because we dealt with Gonzalo last year. Before that, I think we didn't have any significant hurricane dealing with before 1995. But last year was a below average hurricane season. And the forecast was for below average hurricane season, and it was in actuality a below average hurricane season. However, we were affected by a storm. So while the forecast can be a guide and we can listen to it and so on, like we always say, it only takes one. And that's exactly what happened last year. And I think there were a number of lessons to be learned. The office, as usual, we try and put the information out as quick as possible. We have developed our web page. We use Twitter and Facebook to get information out. And we will look at other avenues as we develop. It's a relatively new department, but we have some experienced persons there. And we'll look at different avenues as much as possible to get information out.
Stay with us. You're watching 30 Minutes with Government.
We're not just another Caribbean airport. We're an international gateway, designed with you, the traveler, in mind. SXM provides a state-of-the-art international travel experience, where ease and convenience is second only to safety and efficiency. At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport. The experience will move you.
The Department of Collective Prevention Services within the Ministry of Public Health has acquired 4 handheld foggers that will further help to eliminate the Aedes aegypti mosquito, carriers of dengue, chikungunya, and the new Zika virus. The handheld foggers will be used when reports are received of large mosquito populations at a particular address. Residents should continue to take preventative measures, especially now that the country has been experiencing some rain showers. 30 Minutes with Government spoke to the sales representative of Akiba, the German makers of the foggers, to get an explanation as to the type of foggers that were purchased by the Ministry of Health.
I was introduced to these foggers a few years ago after having not really good experience with another type. We used to like if you have to do a job and then you get there, a job from 5 minutes, you have to be like 30 minutes trying to start up these machines. You know, it was really frustrating. So when I met people of this company in a convention in the United States, I was introduced to it. I bought one, and from that day, it was very good. It works very good. It's very reliable. Very good product. It's German made, so it's a really, really good product. It starts very easily. It works good. So at a certain time, I told them, listen, I'm a salesman, so I can sell your product, and I like to sell something that's good. So if I can back up my words that it's good, so, and that's the way we started. I sold also to the government of Aruba. They've been using it now for 3 years, no problem. And some other companies also has bought them. So that's the company. It's very good. It's very good to have these machines like with this department in St. Martin, because like let's say if you have an outbreak at a certain part, a certain district, you can just take these machines, go and fog like an area. You can use. Let me put this clear. This will not substitute the big foggers like you have truck mounted. Okay, this is more like a smaller area. But when we do the demonstration in a while, you will see what the volume. It has a lot of volume. It works very good. The good part of these machines is you can work with oil-based or water-based products. So let's say if you have to fog inside or a smaller area, or where you have a house with bushes and everything, you can use water-based. The water-based won't have as much volume. You won't see it, but it works. I know that will be a problem to educate the people that you don't see a lot of smoke, but it's working. With the oil-based, you have a lot of smoke. So that will be, I know that's impressive. But I think through education, the public will see that the water-based works also. The water-based actually is better in a sense because you can have the residual product. It will stay there. Like, let's say if you fog on a plant or a wall, it will stay there. But with an oil-based, it won't stay. It will just disperse and gone. It's gone. But the oil-based is good if you have a larger area and you want to do it. It works very good also.
Let's talk about cost in regard to one of these machines. What are we looking at?
The machine, it cost this island for one about 2,600 guilders. Okay, so but it's German made. It's very good. Everything you see in the back there is stainless steel. So it's very good and very reliable.
Lifetime when it comes to operation of one of these machines, how long?
The operation, I have one I think about 8 to 9 years. And one was in an accident. A guy went over it with a trailer. I didn't throw it away. It's still working. It's working very good. So, but again, through maintenance, cleaning. The most important thing is, and that's what we went over yesterday, is cleaning. When you finish, clean it and then store it. It will be good for a good while. That's the secret of it.
Medical professionals have indicated that there's a rise in gastroenteritis cases and caution citizens to take the necessary steps to avoid contracting this debilitating virus. For more about this virus, Decom spoke to Dr. Offringa at the St. Martin Medical Center, who gave practical suggestions on how to combat the virus once contracted and what must be avoided to prevent casualties from a virus that can be treated.
Gastroenteritis means, in plain local English, belly flu. Vomiting, diarrhea. Gastro from stomach, enteritis from intestines, so inflamed, infected stomach, intestines. So gastroenteritis is a word for vomiting, diarrhea, locally called belly flu, whatever you want to call it. No? We have a little more interest in it the last few weeks since we had so many, especially kids, but also adult people with stomach flu. It started a couple of weeks before Carnival. We usually see it around Carnival because it may have to do with eating not always very healthy stuff and maybe not even very, very clear stuff. You can imagine if you eat something which is not entirely well cooked or too long outside or whatever, that maybe some little bugs, some little bacteria started having a little party and causing trouble in the one who is eating it. This year we saw many more in my office kids, but outside also adult people with stomach flu, gastroenteritis. And the Ministry of Public Health, used to be called Public Health Department, they got a little bit notified and aware from, hey, this is more than normal and what's going on. And they decided to do some study to find out what is causing it. And they also asked me from, hey, what do you think of our study? So, well, the study is entirely justified because indeed this year we see many more people with that belly flu, but up to now we don't find a good reason for it. Certainly not angry bacteria, so most likely it's caused by one of the many viruses. Now, the most common virus is the rotavirus, and another virus is the norovirus, and that's the virus what you sometimes hear from a cruise ship, that many people get the same trouble, and that then a cruise ship may not even land, or at least not release the people on land, on shore, because then it may also give trouble to your own population. This time though, I didn't think we really find, at least we didn't find any culprits. So most likely a virus, but not really known which one. Yeah, now so be it then. We had quite some kids in the hospital with that belly flu. Why then? Well, especially little kids may easily dehydrate, and we don't want casualties. And in many years we didn't have any casualties, not any kids dying from this problem, but it should also not happen. But what became clear to me is that quite some people handle those kids different than I would like to see sometimes. What do you need to do? If your child gets that stomach flu, start vomiting, getting diarrhea now, then what is really important that the kid gets sufficient, appropriate liquids. And now the question is what? And then we see on this island with all the many cultures that many people have different ideas about it. Gave him bush tea, gave him all kind of medicines, do whatever. And ORS, oral rehydration solution, sold in the name of Pedialyte, is also very popular nowadays. And another thing what is very common here is that whenever a kid gets sick, the mommy try to make that kid eat. Well, when your stomach is upset, I'm so sorry, but it's not gonna work. And we try to teach people from, hey, do it a little different. Time out, belly little rest, make sure the kid get enough fluids with sugar and salt in it. And there is a very old-fashioned way to achieve that. Nowadays, the ORS, the oral rehydration solution, again, sold under the name Pedialyte, seems to be popular. I never prescribe it for the simple reason that it's a rehydration solution. Now, and I don't want to see the kid dehydrated. And if he's not dehydrated, then there's also no reason to rehydrate. Now, the ORS is excellent for all kind of developing countries. For here, I think we have different ways to deal with it. Plus, the ORS don't taste well. It is water with sugar and salt, and the Pedialyte adds some flavor to it. And what I've seen, it's a flavor that some kids really disgust, and they even vomit that stuff. So I learned a long time ago in Curacao a little different way out, and that is a very classical way. BTC, bouillon, tea and coke. Add it, rice water, bouillon, tea and coke. Rice water, well, easy to understand. You cook the rice and you drink the water, cool down. Bouillon, French word for liquid, salty soup. Tea, and now we go, only black tea. Black tea with sugar, not bush. Come back to that. And the C, Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola. And actually the Pepsi contains a little bit more salt than the Coca-Cola. Then the local saying is warm. No, please, warm Coke is terrible. Try yourself hot Coke. You're gonna vomit it. Nice, cool, but the bubbles out. Bubbles out, shake it out, and if it don't work, a few grains of sugar in it, so all the bubbles come up. Give that kid, if you wish, in a baby bottle, full bottle of Coca-Cola, bubbles out, let the baby drink, and then most of them drink it. Consequently, they don't dehydrate. Consequently, they don't need a doctor, they don't need a hospital. Now, there are also many medicines which are demanded for, asked for, all kind of suppositories, locally called push-ups, other medicines, but most of those medicines, except one, are not entirely harmless. People ask for Imodium. Imodium is a medicine what indeed stops diarrhea, but it stops the whole gut to move. So everything in there starts bubbling and it expands and it may even cause big holes in your gut. So Imodium, absolute dangerous for children.
Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunications, the Honorable Claret Connor, attended an anti-bullying session at the Aranya School on behalf of the Minister of Education, the Honorable Rita Bourne-Gums. The theme for the session was Bullying is Mean and Should Not Be Seen, drafted by Michelle Vicicio. During the session, an original song was performed by 3 students, namely Shinukwili, Marva Granger, Smaden Penthria. The song was Bullying is Wrong, It's Like a Bad Song, and if you're a bully, then you're a dummy. Keep it in mind to always be kind. Bullying is unwanted, aggressive behavior among school-age children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. In order to be considered bullying, the behavior must be aggressive and include an imbalance of power. Kids who bully use their power, such as physical strength, access to embarrassing information, or popularity to control or harm others. Power imbalances can change over time and in different situations, even if they involve the same people. Bullying behaviors happen more than once or have the potential to happen more than once. Minister addressed those in attendance at Tuesday's session and said that government is committed to supporting students to feel safe and accepted in their schools and communities. Everybody has a role to play in stopping bullying. However, since bullying-related incidents often originate at school or impact other students, educators, counselors, and government saw the need to have these types of sessions as a first response. Minister concluded by saying that he was very impressed with the presentations by the students. That brings us to the end of this edition of 30 Minutes with Government. For this and all other Decom programming, we invite you to log on to the official government website, stmartingov.org. On behalf of the government of St. Martin and all of us here at the Department of Communication, I'm Cedric Peterson. Thanks for watching.